Welcome to another unforgettable episode of the SHAQ Podcast, where conversations aren't just content, they are catalysts. Where our mission is simple to spotlight the extraordinary voices who shape the world from behind the scenes with wisdom, heart, and grit. I'm your host, your friend Shaq, and let me tell you, today's guest is not just an expert, he's a force, a man whose entire career has been about elevating communication to an art form and reminding us all that technology may evolve, but true human connection is timeless. Let me take a moment to introduce this powerhouse properly because this is not just a guest, this is a moment. Our guest today is none other than Michael Barris, a name that commands respect across journalism, education, communication, and executive leadership. He spent over a decade inside the engine room of global journalism as a Wall Street Journal and Dow Jones Newswire's editor, where he shaped stories that moved markets and made headlines. In the fast paced world of financial journalism, he stood out as a curator of clarity, someone who could take noise and turn it into narrative. He's been a beloved Rutgers University professor teaching the art of public speaking and expository writing. His classrooms were more than just lectures. They were laboratories of voice, presence, and personal power. He is the best-selling author of How he is the best selling author of How to Become a Super Speaker, a practical, soul filled guide that has helped countless professionals break through fear, connect with confidence, and speak with substance. His words are not about performance, they are about transformation. And as if that wasn't enough, Michael is a musician, a presenter, and a performer, which means he doesn't just understand rhythm, storytelling, and stage energy, he lives it. But what truly sets him apart? He is the creator of a groundbreaking 7 part framework, a system designed to help business leaders, CEOs, and entrepreneurs become masters of human connection in an AI saturated world. This isn't about prettier slides or trendier tools. Michael teaches that your voice, your empathy, your awareness, these are the real competitive edges in business today. He's coached NYSE executives, guided government leaders, and brought quiet professionals out of their shells and into the spotlight, not by changing them, but by helping them uncover what was already powerful inside. In an era where machines talk louder and people feel lost in the noise, Michael is the beacon reminding us connection isn't created by tech, it's built by truth. So, SHAQ Podcast family, lean in because we are about to hear from a true maestro of meaningful communication, a master craftsman of leadership presence, and one of the sharpest minds you will ever hear on this mic. Please welcome the phenomenal, the unforgettable Michael Barris. Michael, welcome to the show. It's an absolute privilege to have you here. How are you feeling today, my friend?
Well, I'm really ramped up. That was a great introduction, I must say. You do a very nice job of making me feel really, really good. Thank you.
The pleasure is all mine. Thank you so much for being on the SHAQ podcast today. So let's start by how's the weather outside? I mean, say, is it sunny? Is it bright?
Well, I don't know if you mentioned, I'm in New Jersey, USA. I'm about an hour south of New York City, and it hit 90 degrees Fahrenheit here yesterday. So summer's really underway. It's a nice, bright, sunny day. The sun is shining. Sky is blue. It's humid, hot. Probably going to get a thunderstorm later because that's what we get down here. But this is living in paradise, if I may say.
Awesome.
Yeah.
Awesome. Awesome. A great day to be on the SHAQ podcast. And before we proceed further with the session, I would like to ask my audience to please let us know if you can hear us properly or not and where you are tuning in from. I'm looking at a very beautiful global community. Just put in the location where you're tuning in from, where you're listening from. And also, if you've got any questions regarding tech, AI, or about human connection, about speaking like a human, just put your questions in the comments, and I'm going to make sure that I put them across to Michael, and he would be happy to answer them all. So let's proceed with the session, Michael. So, Michael, let's start the session with question number one. Um, so, I would want to ask, you have worn many hats: journalist, educator, speaker, strategist. But today, if someone asked you, what is your mission in one sentence, and how would you answer?
The answer is I'm trying to help people to reconnect with their audiences in communication. This is something that, to my chagrin, is being lost. If I can give you an example, when I taught university, I saw signs of it, but these were students. When you worked with the students, by the end of the class, they were very resonant speakers. But I also have been in speaking clubs, working with very bright professionals, where I see that the first thing they're thinking about is their devices or their expertise. They're not thinking about the audience. And it's the same thing when you look out there. People get so involved with technology and with what they know that they're not really thinking about what matters most. It's how do you make the people out there who you're talking to feel like you're listening to them, making them feel heard, making them feel understood. A lot of people, sometimes it's just a matter of saying, look, what is it you want to know and how can I help you? But that seems to be obvious. And yet it doesn't happen very much anymore, with the exception of what you would call exceptional speakers. They're mainly exceptional because they know how to connect with the audience, but that should be obvious for everybody. And I will tell you more about this if you're interested, because since you asked, what am I doing today? I'm thinking a lot about this, that this whole issue of how you reach people was figured out 2,400 years ago. Aristotle, the Greek philosopher who really pioneered the study of rhetoric, realized that if you were going to persuade people, you had to understand what they thought, what they felt, what they believed in, who they were, essentially. In a sense, he was an advocate for the idea of putting the audience first. But then what happened? As time went on, we get more and more communication technology advancing, things like the telephone, TV, radio, telegraph, whatever, and then the internet, and then mobile. And in a sense, you could say that, well, we're communicating with people in a mass way, yeah, but we're not connecting as much. You don't have the same direct connection with the audience that I think Aristotle was thinking about, and that good speakers and good communicators instinctively understand. So that's where I'm at today.
Awesome. Thank you so much for letting us know. Aristotle, I mean, you say 2,400 years ago, he has discussed such points about communication, speaking, and how to convey our messages properly. So that's good to know. I mean, say that news to me. I never knew about this. I only thought that Aristotle was into astronomy, or I never read much about Aristotle before.
No, I think that might be the wrong Greek philosopher. I'm not sure, but we're interested in Aristotle because he's known for rhetoric. This is and he did the definitive writings at the time on rhetoric. That's why we're going with that.
Oh, okay. Well, that's good. That's good. And would you like to discuss about your journey from the beginning, from the time you were a journalist for this big, big media houses, and for Wall Street? To be very honest, I would love to know that.
Well, I worked at I had a long journalism career. I worked for a lot of different companies, including Dow Jones, and one of my jobs was I worked on what was called the rewrite desk, where we took some of the world's biggest breaking financial and business news stories and quickly turned them around into stories in 20 minutes. And then they got published on the Wall Street Journal's website, WSJ.com, on Dow Jones Global News Wires, and later they would appear with changes made, reporters adding things in the paper, the Wall Street Journal itself. And what was most interesting about that is that you had to be very, very fast. This was not the kind of thing where you could sit at your seat and spend a whole lot of time thinking about what you're going to do. It was bang, 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 because that was the kind of place where success was measured in seconds. We had clocks on the wall from all parts of the world, which reinforced the idea. And of course, you see clocks in all kinds of newsrooms and financial places. But the point was that when you're dealing with the financial markets, the slightest little bit of significant news could cause a major change in the performance of a stock or securities or whatever people were invested in. So it became apparent to me that this was a different kind of communication, media communication. But again, with everything, the key is getting trust. And we had to be on the watch sometimes. Sometimes people would try to hoax us. They would try to send us phony stories for one reason or another, either to be mischievous or to maybe try to goose the performance of a stock or something like that. So you had to be very alert. You had to have your antenna out so that you could catch when people were trying to do something like that to the company. But the other interesting point of my journalism career was that when I worked for Dow Jones and the Wall Street Journal, it was in the midst of the financial meltdown, which was around 2008, 2009. And this started, of course, with problems in the lending markets, if you may recall. And it snowballed so that eventually you had, at its worst, you had certain investment banks disappearing. Lehman Brothers, for example. There's Stearns was the other one. And I kept getting bad news every day. It was like I was covering car sales, and it would be, monthly car sales, Ford down 80%, Chrysler down 70%, GM down 80%. It was that kind of time. But it was just interesting to watch how gradually with life, things sorted themselves out one way or another. And so in a way, journalism is not just a news job, it's a life job. The whole world is a classroom. That's how I've always regarded it. And that was a perfect classroom for me to be in.
Awesome. And back in those days, today we see the world in turmoil. Back in those days also, did you face challenges or challenging situations like today, or how was it? It was peaceful time at that time?
Oh, well, of course, in the world, there's always something going on somewhere. In fact, there are problems going on in the world that rarely get reported because, let's face it, they go on for so long that they're really not news anymore after a while. And the news business tends to go to what is going to get people's attention and make them think, oh, this is interesting. But it gets harder to do when you're just flogging the same news horse day after day after day. So to answer your question about the challenges, I would say not in a sense where we couldn't do our work. We were very skilled at doing our work, but of course it's a people business. I also worked as a reporter for a long time. And what interested me most, this will interest you, I think, is that when I started my journalism career, it was in the late 70s. And all I had was a pad and a pen, and I'd go to someone and say, hey, I'm a reporter with blah, blah, blah. I'm doing an article on so-and-so. Can I just ask you a few questions for your opinion? They'd say, okay. And it was like that. And sometimes they'd let me take their headshot. And then you'd run all these headshots, and this is what people are thinking about, whatever. And I thought that was wonderful, that such trust existed at the time, that in a sense, I had a pathway into the hearts and minds of so-called ordinary people. I think it's harder today. As you know, the challenges today is that, let's face it, the mobile revolution has given everybody the power to be a broadcaster or a writer. And the audiences out there can't necessarily tell the difference between who is the competent, reliable, trustworthy professional journalist and who is the person with a phone who's just delivering their opinion out there. Let's face it, everybody has opinions. But it takes someone who knows how to sift what's irrelevant from what really matters when you're dealing with major events. And that's what's sad. It also makes me sad that, I started in newspapers. Newspapers are barely alive right now. Many have disappeared. Well, maybe I shouldn't say disappeared, but they've transitioned into becoming internet-only publications. It's not the same thing to some degree as when you're sitting and you hear that thump of a newspaper arriving at your door and you figure, oh, the paper's here, and you go pick it up and you look through it and you get what's called accidental knowledge. As you flip through the paper, you say, oh, there's something going on I didn't know about. Oh, or there's this going on. The internet can deliver that too, but in a different kind of way than a paper does. So that's how I feel about the changes in the industry. But we still have the power, and I would argue the freedom to do a capable job of helping people to understand what really matters. There are a lot of lies out there. There's a lot of mistruths out there. And getting back to Aristotle, this is something he'd figured out too, that one reason, people will often say, well, the facts speak for themselves. But that's not really true, because people will often reject so-called facts if they find they don't jive with what they already believe, what they already hold to be true. You have to motivate them emotionally. You have to give them a reason to really buy into this fact you're giving them so that they say, yes, I see that this is true. And this sort of ties in with my 7 principles, because the whole key to communication is arousing people emotionally. Yeah, you have to, there's a mental aspect to it too. But if I don't get you excited, if I don't make you think, yeah, I really feel I must see this, I don't get you feeling that in your gut, I'm not really going to resonate with you. And that is the challenge, I would say, in this age of heavy information and heavy technology, because there's so much out there. People can get confused or get lost or lose their voices. You can lose your voice in communication technology that's designed to help you have a stronger voice. And this is the kind of thing I'm talking about.
Great. Thank you so much for that piece of information. It was very immersive and informative as well. So coming to our main topic about communication and strategy, I would like to start my questions now.
Feel free.
Okay. Great. So the first question which I have written down for you is going to be, you have worked with elite leaders, yet you have seen even seasoned professionals make key communication mistakes. What's the most common one, and why does it matter now more than ever?
It's like I was just saying, they just don't have a sense of how to make your stuff resonate with the people who are listening to it. And again, going back to my journalism experience, the first time I realized that this was a chronic problem was when I'd write an article, I'd show it to the editor, and he'd say, you buried the interesting thing is right down here. And it wasn't so much that it was like an important facts. It was that it was something that was going to resonate with the reader. It was going to tickle their ears. We're going to make them think, oh, yeah, that's interesting. And that's what people do when they're writing emails, when they're writing speeches, when they're speaking in meetings, getting back, including as you say, elite leaders. They're human beings. They're limited by the extent to which they can or can't connect with the people who are out there. And a lot of that is understanding who you're talking to. If you see the most prominent people in business and politics generally, and across the whole human spectrum, they generally know how to make people feel things. You may not agree with what they're saying, including some of our biggest leaders, but they have mastered the ability of getting people to pay attention. And how do they do that? They're saying, to some degree, they're saying what they want to hear or what the audience wants to hear. And they also are thinking of they are keying in on the unaddressed things that people want to hear more about. In other words, they've anticipated, well, what's really going to resonate with them in their minds? And how do you do that? Again, a lot of that can just be making an effort to think about who you're talking to. Mm-hmm. And in the case of, say, for example, even with a job interview, it's the same kind of thing. If you were going to go to a job interview, you should go look at the website of the company you're applying to, and you'll see the leaders speaking up there. What are they talking about? What matters to them? What's ongoing? So it's the same thing when you're a leader talking to the rank and file. You have to have your finger in, what are they probably thinking? How are they feeling? What do I need to say? What shouldn't I say that's going to drive them away from me? But that we really see that done enough. Because often people are just thinking of the issue. Yeah, this is an important human resources policy I want to introduce. But they're not putting themselves in the shoes of the people they're speaking to. It's not a question of, well, they're too big for them because they're higher up. It's not like that. It's a human thing. They probably always were like that. And a lot of it is just understanding that human beings need help. Human beings are capable of amazing things. We hear about amazing accomplishments, but they also can be needy. They need you to show them, to guide you to what's important, but they're also fussy. They're not necessarily going to give you their trust unless you demonstrate that you're worthy of their trust.
Exactly.
And that is the major challenge. And that is why so many elite executives, they don't come across as being totally trustworthy.
Mm. Exactly. I totally agree with you. And I can feel you. I can feel your words. And also, what do you think? When you've spoken about leaders, whom do you think has that charisma, or who do you think is a good speaker when it comes to a leader? Is it Obama, Trump, or?
Well, I'm going to avoid the political ones for the moment, if you don't mind. I just feel a little happy about that at the moment. And maybe it will come. Well, no, what am I going to say? Obama was an excellent speaker. Obama had the ability to, when he was at his best, and he wasn't always at his best. During the course of a 4-year presidency, there's a lot of times you don't want to, for political reasons, you're not going to say too much. You're going to appear a little bit standoffish. That happens. But when he gave some of his greatest speeches, he really resonated with you right in your gut. Now, I don't want to get into Trump. There's too much. It's too radioactive from where I'm sitting to get into Trump right now, if you don't mind.
Yeah.
But I will say he definitely has charisma.
Oh, okay.
Definitely. He is, he's a perfect model of the speaker who understands his core audience and how to keep them following him. Now, is it good to just only appeal to your so-called core audience when you're a politician? Shouldn't you be trying to reach everybody who's not in the core? Right? Isn't that why you're elected? If for a country to be the leader of the country, not just of the core. But at any rate, all right. So there you go. I did talk about Trump, but getting business, and I know there's a lot of good modern ones like Jamie Dimon, Citicorp. He's Citicorp, right? He is an excellent speaker. He tends to be a teacher. He tries to educate you as he's speaking. But my classic all-time favorite is Steve Jobs. And why do I say that? I say just watch Steve Jobs unveiling the iPod music player. I think it's 2001. It's on YouTube. I think it says Steve Jobs unveils the iPod. And he does a couple of things really well. One, he manipulates statistics. I shouldn't say manipulate, but he uses statistics very effectively so that he gets the points across about what they've done technically, but it's the way that he puts on the show of getting you excited about what he's talking about and making you actually want to own one if you can, right? So the most famous thing is that he said, he came out and he gave the background saying, this is what's out there now. So-and-so able to hold 30 songs and a portable music player. So-and-so able to hold 25 songs. And today we're introducing iPod. It'll hold 1,000 songs, never done before. And it's just a little a little thing no bigger than a pack of playing cards. He points this out. But that is not what sealed the deal, right? That would be letting the facts speak for themselves. What did he do? He said, and it goes right in my pocket. Imagine being able to travel with your entire music library, at that time it would have been 1,000 songs, with you all the time, right in your pocket. No more having to worry about forgetting to take your CDs with you when you're traveling, because you've got everything you want, your favorite songs, with you all the time. So immediately, he gave people a reason to care about this and to get excited about it, in addition to putting on an excellent show. So he is, and he did it at other times as well. He is probably my all-time favorite communicator and speaker. And he hated the term showman. He thought it sounded superficial or connoted a certain kind of dishonesty. But he puts on a very watchable presentation, if you will. But he takes it beyond just marketing and turns it into like an exquisite piece of strategic communication. And that's how good they are. And isn't that what Apple was doing for so many years? They didn't just market their products. They made people feel that they were part of a community of revolutionary creatives. That's what Apple did for them. And Jobs, with these sort of presentations, helped to instill that kind of feeling of belief and trust and adoration and following of Apple.
Great. Thank you for letting me know your favorite business leaders who are great speakers. Do you also feel that words carry great power, or magical power, or do you feel that if a person is an adept speaker, he can conquer the world just by his words?
Well, it's happened. It's almost happened a number of times throughout history. As I said, yes. And yes, words are very powerful. I think communication is the most powerful thing there is. And sadly, lack of it is where a lot of our problems come from. It's often said that, we could go much farther if we just made an effort to understand who we're talking to. That's communication. A lot of the disputes in the world right now, to some degree, they come from a refusal to try to accept the other person's viewpoint. Granted, people don't always have the best intentions with those viewpoints. They may want to hurt people or conquer countries or erase groups, that kind of thing. That's not good. But what is powerful is when you can raise the level of a relationship through using words that help both of you to find some new connection, that helps you to become better business people, perhaps, that helps you to become even a better husband, a better friend, a better member of your community, and a better leader as well too. So yes, communication is terribly powerful, and it's why, as a journalist, I thought my thing, in addition to asking good questions, if I may say so, which is, by the way, a very important thing to be able to do with AI. We'll come to that later. I also took a lot of care with the words. I was careful with the language, because I didn't want anybody misunderstanding something because of an ill-chosen word. It would be like driving down the highway and having a badly worded road sign, and you wind up in a bad place. So yes, words are incredibly powerful and very, very important.
Awesome. Thank you for that brief answer, Michael. Also, before we move on to the controversial questions regarding AI, I also have one more line to share with you. Words are sharper than a sword. Do you agree?
Words are sharper than a sword?
Yes.
If they're honed and get sharpened every once in a while, because of course I've seen a lot of very dull words in my time. My favorite thing is that I'll give you an example. These are actual copy editing examples that I saw come across my desk at various publications, not necessarily the Wall Street Journal or Dow Jones, but instead of writing a nuclear threat, someone wrote a nuclear treat. They left off the H, right? That was pretty good. And let me see now. What's another good example? Instead of writing about Santa Claus, they would have written a sentence like, every year at Christmas time across the world, millions of children eagerly anticipate the arrival of that jolly elf, Satan. Because they've transposed.
That's a good one.
Yeah. You can have it's funny, it's fun, but thank God they have somebody like me to help catch the mistakes, right? That a good editor will keep a writer from looking bad, from being very badly embarrassed. So that's when you get the sharpened words. And as I say, there can be some very bright minds out there, but they may not write very well. They may not have the ability to get out of that technical mindset, that expert's mindset, and just be able to translate their words into ideas that average people can use, that understand how to solve a problem. What's the basic way? Don't give me the process. You can have it's funny, it's fun, but thank God they have somebody like me to help catch the mistakes, right? That a good editor will keep a writer from looking bad, from being very badly embarrassed. So that's when you get the sharpened words. And as I say, there can be some very bright minds out there, but they may not write very well. They may not have the ability to get out of that technical mindset, that expert's mindset, and just be able to translate their words into ideas that average people can use, that understand how to solve a problem. What's the basic way? Don't give me the process. I don't care how the widget is put together and how it works. Just tell me how it can help me get to work faster or get a better shine on my silverware or something like that. That kind of thing.
Okay. I can totally I totally agree with that. Also, I can totally relate to that. I mean, so making mistakes like nuclear treat. And also, do you believe that by the power of words, one can bring peace and harmony, and also war and disharmony to the world?
Well, it's certainly important. I mean, say you were getting close. Okay, let's take a situation where there'd been a lot of conflict, a lot of ill feeling, and perhaps a lot of loss of one kind or another, right? So the two sides decide, well, maybe we can finally come to some kind of agreement here. You need words at the end to make that happen. And that's why I will add that that kind of conversation is generally likely to happen face to face. It's not usually going to happen this way through mediated communication. And I really doubt it's going to happen through a text. So the point is that, again, this is where it's very important to really use your human, the best of being human, to use words that help catch the moment, help capture the situation, and drive a discussion towards a positive conclusion. So yeah, words can bring peace, but not alone. You need a lot of agreement, and you need people who have the capacity to see beyond immediate needs and to see the big picture. The bigger picture might be the whole world. And it takes exceptional people to be able to do that, I think.
I'm going to edit this clip and put it across my social media channels.
Oh, okay, great.
And say, Michael Barris has the formula for peace and harmony. It's in the words.
Maybe the United Nations will offer me a job. Who knows?
So before we move further with the session, we've got Lubna here. She is I'm not sure. Lubna, could you please tell us where you are listening us from? And she says, yes, this is the thing AI can't do like human beings. I think she's talking about the power of speech. So thank you, Lubna. Thank you for joining us. And also let us know if you've got any questions regarding AI, or do you have any questions regarding the communication or speaking, public speaking. I'm going to put them across to Michael. and he would be happy to answer them all. So let's move forward with the session. And the next question is for Michael. It's gonna be um, okay. The question is, I'm starting questions with, you know, uh, with AI. Influencing everything. Now, I would like to bring this topic into the session. So, I want to ask you, Michael, with AI handling more technical tasks every day, what do you believe makes human communication our last and greatest competitive edge?
Well, here's the thing. For decades, we've had what would be called perhaps a knowledge economy. In other words, the people who seem to be in demand, the skills that were in demand were technical skills. So what happens? Artificial intelligence is going to be is already taking care of those technical tasks. And as a result, I don't mean to create any concern here in your audience, but I might as well be forthright. This is the truth, that layers of middle management are going to disappear. And what happens then is you're going to get organizations flattening. You're going to see, with no middle, or not the same kind of middle, you're going to see more higher ups coming together with the frontline workers like this, or maybe it's more like this, I guess, maybe better, like that, right? Since higher up, let me see if I can do it. Yeah, like that. And you're going to have both groups engaged in meaningful discussions that are generally going to be more about innovative projects, because that is the thinking. If AI is taking care of the technical tasks, then companies are now freed up to talk more about innovation, and leaders ostensibly are being freed up to get to know their people more as human beings. The question, of course, is, though, in the real world, if AI does in fact free up some time, are the leaders really going to use it that way? Are they going to really use it to get to know, spend more time? Hey, SHAQ, how was your weekend? I hear your parents aren't doing well, or I understand, are you taking any trips? That kind of thing, just human to human. Or is it just going to get swallowed up in the course of the day? And it's incumbent on leaders to learn how to do this, because there's going to be a whole lot of stuff happening. There's going to be a lot of data out there, first of all, that possibly shouldn't even be out there. But leaders have to be able to help the employees to cope with this and to understand that it might be a more intense world. I don't mean to, I sound like a bit of an alarmist here, but it is going to be the biggest upheaval that we have seen in decades. This is an innovation. This version of AI that is on the level, I would argue, of the car, the automobile, and maybe other innovations. And what does that mean? Well, think of the days when people had horses, right? You could only travel so far. You were thinking in terms of, I got to get from point A to point here, blah, blah, blah. And then a car comes along. Theoretically, it travels distances. It's got a whole different way of going that changes everybody's thinking. And yet in the beginning, people were so afraid of this thing or uncertain about how to handle this invention that there was a rule that a car had to travel only with somebody in front of it holding a red flag. So essentially, a car wasn't allowed to travel faster than a person could walk. Now, obviously that changed, but the car did take over in many ways. The economy was built on cars in the 1950s in America. Detroit was the biggest engineer of the economy for the most part at one point in America. So the point I'm making is that we got by those initial concerns and uncertainties. And yet at the time, people didn't really know what to do with it. So the human element is really what you're left with. If AI is taking care of the technical stuff, the human element is what allows you to have these discussions about progressive projects and to become more empathetic with your group. But the thing is, people will make the mistake of letting AI think for them. And once you start doing that, you weaken your skills. From the moment you turn over writing something or preparing something to AI and let it do all the thinking for you, you're immediately weaker. You weaken your skills. The second thing is you're losing your voice, because what AI will say, let's say Chat GPT, what it will turn out on its own without specific directions will be very bland, because it doesn't know. It doesn't know the specific kind of nuances you that need to be focused in on. That's your job. That's the human thing. You have to use your experience. You have to think like a person who's still in charge. But a lot of people will be tempted to turn it over to AI simply because human beings tend to want to embrace things that seem to make life easier. So that's why you have to double down on being human, because it's very tempting. It's an addiction. You start letting AI write your introductions and you think, hey, this thing's smarter than I am. I'm just going to let it carry the ball here. Must not do that. You have to keep looking for challenges and embracing the challenges, because that's how we strengthen our skills. And if we don't do that, we're going to become very weak. And that will have other ramifications down the line.
Exactly. I mean, say, if we are so dependent on AI, then we are stopping our own growth.
Yeah.
If say everything is done by AI, what is there? Say, tell me a good reason I should do it. See, people would think in that way, but by the by, in the coming future, we will become weak. I totally agree with that. And also, I recalled one science fact, that snakes used to have legs. This is a science fact. And because they crawl, not walk, the legs disappeared. I'm not sure if how scientifically proven this fact is, but just for an analogy, if you're not using our human abilities of our thinking or our minds, not only we are making ourselves weak, but also we are making ourselves very we will lose the human intelligence in the coming future if it does not keep sharpening ourselves and depending on AI for most of things or all of the things, as AI is advancing each and every day. I also heard that AI is going to replace all the doctors. They can do surgeries. Say they are already replacing coders, software engineers. I'm not sure what AI is going to bring us in the future. I'm just thinking about that film, Arnold's film. I think it's Terminator.
Oh.
I think you've watched Terminator, and where the AI or the artificial intelligence have become self-dependent. Coming back to the communication part, I have an article from the Forbes magazine. They say they are asking a question: how will AI affect the ability of people to communicate on human level? A future Outlook article in Forbes cites the soft skills of communication and interpersonal networking are among the 10 most in-demand skills in 2024. It's a article from 2024, I think. The reason organizations need humans with the ability to talk to other humans in ways that AI can't match yet. And when it comes to making friends and building bonds of trust and common goals, the human voice is highly prized. What do you have to say about this?
Well, I agree. The key thing is that AI is very smart. It's had some very good teachers, but it can imitate empathy, but it doesn't really feel in a way like you do. If we're talking and I sense that you're getting angry at me, I can pick that up. AI isn't going to do that. Granted, it has the ability to analyze the way words are put together so that it can kind of gauge how you're feeling, right? If your words get shorter, or you start using bigger words and breaking sentences up, it can intuit that this emotion may be happening, and that's pretty impressive. But let's face it, that if I'm speaking to an audience and they're getting bored, I'm the one who has to figure out, I got to try to do something else here because I'm losing them. No matter how Chat GPT is being used, it can't pick that up unless I would say to it, if I'm speaking in front of an audience and I see people are starting to nod off and phones are going on and people are murmuring among themselves, I think I may be losing them. What could I do? It'll answer that. Because it has access to billions of bits of information, and it knows how to think, or it's been taught how to think like a human. So it can pull together these bits and come up with its language that tells me, well, what's probably happening is that you're droning on to I wouldn't say droning, it said that you're talking on too long, or maybe the topic isn't resonating with them. You might try something like tell a joke, you might tell me, or try telling us share a personal story about yourself. It gives good advice with the right questions, but that's it. That its ability, when you say you have to talk the way an AI can, I can get to the bottom of what's bugging you faster than it can because I'm right there with you. I can look into your eyes. I can see your facial expressions. At the moment, artificial intelligence doesn't do that. I mean, granted, there are things where it can scan your face and tell you how old you look, right? But I'm not so certain that, and it may be possible. When people get angry, certain corners of their eyes will do a certain thing, or the mouth will be a certain way. There are certain shrugs a mouth shrug, which suggests you're not really interested in something. These are things that I can generally pick up more readily than it can. So that's one part of communication. But essentially, though, if you and I are talking, I can feel whether I have you with me or not. That's the key thing, right? The best speakers are the best listeners. The best communicators read the room better than anybody else. Again, going back to Steve Jobs, that's what he did very, very well. That's what Jamie Dimon does well. They read the room very well. So that's what you really are looking for. So when that article you had, which says that they're looking for people who can talk like AI can't, their people have to be really good at picking up feelings in the room. And that's what you call a soft skill. For the longest time, we talked about hard skills, being able to program computers and that kind of thing. The soft skills were feelings. Ooh, I feel you're like this. I feel like this. Those were the Army, U.S. Army gave them that term soft skills to distinguish it from machine operated skills requiring operating a machine, right? But those soft skills are going to become the hard skills, or the big skills as we go forward.
Thank you, Michael. Thank you for that elaborate answer. Before we move further quickly, because we are running out of time, could you please, would you be kind enough to please take this question from Lubna? She says, my question is if AI will monitor human beings or human beings will monitor AI?
It depends on who's running it, right? I mean, you could be in a company or some office where you're being monitored. I mean, that's what that sounds like she's asking me. Is it going to be like a Big Brother kind of thing, like in Orwell's 1984? My question is, yeah. Well, it could be. It depends on the ethics that people pledge themselves to adhere to, right? And it depends on respect. That's still what we need here if we're going to survive down the road. Is we got to show respect for each other. Our different views, our different customs, our different origins, whatever, we're all different. And if you're going to start using artificial intelligence to determine if I'm working hard enough, or I'm buying into your pitch of one thing or another, that's a bit of a sinister kind of a world to be in, right? So I do believe if we can keep people respecting each other, we can deal with that. It's never going to be clean or easy or simple, because life is never clean or easy or simple. Life does not move in straight lines. So you've got to find a way that will work. Like I said, when the car came around, there was probably a lot of disruption at the time. You had horses and cars, and when did if people had to work farther and farther away, but they had a horse, what would they do? That kind of thing. So let's hope it'll get worked out. I mean, one way or another, it may not be pretty. There may be some bad things that happen along the way, but hopefully human beings go on.
I hope, Lumia, you have got the answer. Thank you for explaining that in a brief manner, Michael. So moving further with the session, and I know to my audience, I would like to tell you that Michael is an ocean of knowledge. This is a vast subject, and it can't be covered in a 60 minutes or 90-minute session. But I would definitely try to request Michael for one more session on the SHAQ podcast. But we are not wrapping our session. I'm just letting you know about it, because we have to discuss about Michael's 7-part system. So, Michael, can I ask you this question about your signature, the 7-part system for building human connection, and which is your foundation of your talks, coaching sessions, and upcoming book designed to help professionals lead more effectively in a tech-saturated business world. Would you want to speak about this, please?
The key thing, this comes out of what I told you, the audience is everything. Everything starts and begins with who you're speaking to, why you're speaking to them, what they need and want to hear in order to feel satisfied. So there are 7 principles that matter most in this, whether you're given a speech or any kind of communication. It translates. And the first thing is you have to prioritize your delivery, how you're saying it. I'm arguing that how you say things is invariably more important than what you're saying. And a lot of experts don't like hearing that, because they get, their ego is tied to their sense of being a world expert, which I admire. You've done a lot of work to gain a reputation and to be recognized as an expert. But all your knowledge won't matter a bit unless you know how to put it across in a way so that the audience hears you and gets excited and wants to hear more. The second thing is you got to put on a show. Now, I'm not saying you have to put on a clown suit and drive a tricycle around a boardroom, but I am saying you have to have some insight into how to work the emotions of the people you're communicating with. So if you're starting an email or something, you want to be able to pull them in right away. You want to make them feel that something better is coming. And then you vary the emotion in there. So something isn't all monotonic. That's really a killer, right? Because when you go to a good movie, what do you say? Gee, that was a good movie. What do you mean? You mean that it took you on a journey. It went up, it went down, it built you up hope, and it delivered a happy ending. It's kind of like that with any form of communication. You are managing the emotions of the people you're speaking to. And that's what I mean by putting on a show. The third thing is you got to display personality. Because, as I said, especially with AI, if you start letting it turn out bland, unfocused answers, you're going to have no personality and you'll be no one. So it's more important to double down on your likes, your preferences. We know that people don't like certain things. They do like certain things. That is all part of personality. And the more you do that, the more audiences are pulled in by it. If you have quirks, audiences are pulled in by the display of these quirks, because a lot of people are very smooth and very polished, but the one you remember and notice is the one who maybe had a bit of an eccentric way of speaking or calling out to people or even falling over his own feet. But if his message is coherent, you remember that. The next thing is you got to feel the fear. There's a lot of discussion in public speaking, obviously, about anxiety. It's the biggest topic. And my idea of that is reject any idea that there's any such a thing as fearless public speaking or fearless communication, because human beings are wired to feel fear before at the perception of any kind of a threat. So before you go for an audience, it's actually good if you're speaking to have a little bit of fear, because you will find a vein of energy from that will let you stay on top of the audience, to help you stay one step ahead of them. And if you didn't get that extra shot of adrenaline, there's a danger you might bore them. So you got to let yourself feel the fear and keep going anyway, keep communicating. The fifth thing is you have to give them a reason to care. Because, as I said, with the Steve Jobs example, if you just give them facts, the facts don't speak for themselves. People think, yeah, but why does this matter to me in my life today? You have to connect it with what's in their life today. And that's another reason why, if you get bogged down in AI-generated content, unless you manage it with your own human feelings and experience, you won't be able to create that caring. You'll just inundate them with information that will be bland. It won't go anywhere. You have to show why you feel things in all this. That's how you make them care. So which leads me to the next point, which is called reveal what's inside you. Because the more you can show them how what you're speaking about is getting you excited, the more they're attracted to that. It's that simple. If you don't show me that you're excited about the product you're selling, why should I care? And again, with AI, if you you might rely on something that it generates. Well, this is what you should tell the person. But you're telling the person it doesn't resonate because you're not there in the moment, as I said before, observing how you're reacting and what I'm saying. Like, as I'm speaking with you, SHAQ, like I'm changing what I'm saying on the fly because I think it's going to resonate better with you and the audience. It's that kind of thing. And finally, number 7 is you want to keep things easy to follow, because it's like driving on that highway I mentioned earlier, that the audience expects you to guide them to knowledge. But if you make it too hard for them to figure out how something matters to them or why they should stay interested, you're going to lose them. And again, that's the danger of AI. If you generate reams of information that's not relevant, it's going to be a mess. So you have to double down on the best of what's being human, on the best of being human. And you can use the best of AI in that way to really resonate with any kind of audience, regardless of the medium.
Awesome. Thank you for explaining that in detail, Michael. So for my audience, I have put the links to Michael's website as well as his LinkedIn profile. So go ahead and connect with Michael. Michael is available for consultations, speaking collaborations. And Michael, would you want to elaborate more on that?
Sure, I do. And I do provide training programs for individuals and organizations. My method is to work with you from where you are. I believe everybody has a certain amount of innate speaking ability, because it's not about speaking. It's about, as I said, relating. It's about connecting with the feelings that are in the room. And a lot of people simply aren't in touch with their feelings that way. And so if you're not in touch with your feelings, you can't be in touch with the feelings of the person next to you. So that's one approach to that.
Awesome. So this is Michael's website, which is on the screen. So just to let people know that. So let me just wanted to show that website as well to get in touch with Michael. And also he's also available for speaking. He's a keynote speaker, so speaking events as well. Michael, would you want to talk about your book, which you have written, and the book which is coming in the future?
The first book was called How to Become a Super Speaker, The 7 Principles for Speaking with Confidence and Connecting with Audiences. It's right behind me, actually. It's right there. Mm-hmm. That corner, if you can see. And it contains what I just told you about, the 7 principles, and gave real life examples of how they are applied in life generally. That one was not focused as much on business. The new book I'm writing will be telling people how to, it's going to be, the idea of it will be reclaiming human connection in a tech-driven world. It involves the 7 principles, and this time I go across the business spectrum. I talk a lot about financial services in this one, since that's a lot of where my journalism experience was in. It's not all of that I'm talking about, but that's a big part of it. And I show you how you can stand out alongside AI. The reality is AI is here. It saves companies a lot of money. That's something that cannot be ignored. Just a fact here I have is something like 70% of companies right now are supporting written communication with AI, whether it's emails or reports or proposals.
70%.
77% of companies. 60 more than 60% right now of marketing leaders are using AI to create content. And 41% of leaders are using AI in meetings, whether it's to transcribe things or summarize things. And even certain organizations may not have officially incorporated it into their operations yet, but their employees are using it. Could be on their own, right, with their own phone with them in front of the screen or whatever. The point is that it's here and it's saving money. And financial services is expected to be one of the biggest investors in AI in the years ahead. Because the savings are expected to be in the trillions by the time we get to 2030. So that's one thing I'm aiming to do with this book. I use stories based on my experience as a communication consultant. It shows you how real life people are coping with real life challenges. For example, I have one, speaking of Steve Jobs again, I think everybody likes hearing about Steve Jobs, it seems to me. He's such an exciting figure. That one woman works for a software company where she's rolling out an internal AI product to the higher ups in the company. So, and she's smart. She has her material together, her slides, her data, everything. And she bumps into the CEO in the hallway. He says, "Good luck with that presentation. No, put on a show," he says. So she smiles, and then he walks away, and she's in a panic. She's thinking, "Put on a show? What does he want from me? I've got slides. I've got diagrams. I've got data. What more does he want? Does he want like jazz hands?" But in fact, she complains to a fellow worker. She says, "What does he want from me?" She says, "Oh, you know what he means. He just wants you to sort of give something that really resonates with the crowd." So that night she goes home because it's the night before the presentation, and she stays up late. And she's driving herself crazy thinking, well, what can I do to make this stronger? And then she remembers, so she goes, looks at Jobs' video of him unveiling the iPod. And she watches in admiration how he does all the things I just told you about. And that inspires her to do something different so that when she does the big presentation, she starts out with like a dark room and a screen, and all you hear is this new iProduct's voice and the voice of a client. And it's like a warm interaction. And then the lights come on, and she says, and she gives the thing a name, that's Hazel. That's what we're working on. Hazel will never let you down. It won't go anywhere, and it'll be the best collaborator you've ever had. Like that's a Jobs type approach. Anyway, that wraps it up. That's an example though of how she learns to bend an AI with all the ideas of shaping this product so it fits with the presentation she's trying to make. That's actually an example where she's working with an AI product itself, but that's one way to make it come alive for an audience.
Awesome. Thank you so much, Michael, for all that information. And before we wrap up this session, I want to ask you, and my audience wants to know, will we, I'm not sure. I know that you're a busy man. Will I be able to see you on the SHAQ podcast again to discuss more on the communication?
If you'd like to have me back, I'll be there.
Okay. Thank you so much, Michael. Thank you so much for your kindness and generosity. And also, to my audience, whoever have joined me, I'm giving away $4,000 USD worth of AI training for my people and also for you, Michael, for free. You will get a 30-day access if you want to learn AI black belt training, which is I'm just going to share on the screen just to let our audience know about this. It is going to be free for the next 30 days. It's worth around, let me just share this. Yeah. So the training is given by Simple Academy. This program is offered by Simple Academy, where you will get $4,000 in AI training for free for the next 30 days once you register with them. So Lubna, here is the link. I've just put the link for you. You've been with us for the complete session, so that's for you. And anybody who's watching, the link is for them. And also, Michael, if you want to register and learn about AI or nominate anybody else in your team, you're more than welcome to do that. That's one part. And apart from that, Michael. So after saying that, and also I would like to thank our sponsors, Brenda Christie, Flowers and Bouquets. I'm going to put their link into the comments so you can order flowers for weddings and other events. She does a very good work. And also this podcast is powered by the book, Be Effective on LinkedIn by my friend Jeff Young. So, Michael, before we wrap up the session, in 60 seconds or in 1 minute, what would you say, or what would you advise, or what would you give as advice for world peace in terms of with your expertise? What is the one piece of advice you would give for peace all around the world? So based on your expertise.
I'll say it in one word: respect.
Awesome. Respect, yes. That is the main thing which we all value and which can be the base for solving all the problems around the world. So, as we wrap up the session, I just have one final question for you, Mike, if that is okay. I think we are going over time. Okay, and finally, if our what is the one piece of advice you want to give today, right now, to our listeners? Please go ahead.
All right. The thing is that you're only going to be as effective using AI tools as you are competent with communication skills, because it's all about framing the right questions with this tool, which is a collaborator. You have to learn to treat it as it really is an assistant who you can talk to as another human being. So if it gives you something you don't like, you have to challenge it. You can say to it, "Are you sure?" Because you'll find that when you ask ChatGPT to create something for you, and if you have the slightest bit of doubt, and you say, "Are you sure?" you may well get something like, "Oh, pardon me, my mistake. It should be da da da." So it's not infallible. So you have to challenge it, and you have to know yourself. You have to try to make the effort to learn yourself what you want. When you're creating any kind of a project or a speech or any kind of communication, you have to figure out what the things are you want to hit. And as the project develops, as you build it, you have to keep, if you're working with ChatGPT, for example, or any AI, you have to keep adjusting. So that's the mindset. You're in charge. That's the whole thing you have to remember. Don't let it take charge of you. You be in charge, because you're the human, and humans rule.
Awesome. We are born to rule, just like SHAQ Podcast is born to rule the podcasting world.
Exactly. So, podcast, right?
Exactly. Thank you so much. To everyone listening right now, if today's episode made you pause, reflect, or want to become a better communicator, share this with someone who needs to hear it. Tag a friend, drop your thoughts in the comments, and most importantly, start applying what you heard today. Michael, you have gifted us with so much today, and I want the world to hear more from you. Where can our listeners go? I've already discussed about the website and your LinkedIn profile. So apart from the website, you also, by any chance, give out your email address so that they can be a very covert communication
Sure.
for people?
LinkedIn is a good place to go. Like, please connect with me on LinkedIn. I'm welcome. Anyone who's interested in this topic. I've been trying to meet more people who are interested in talking or thinking about the changes that are going to come to the world of work with the advent of AI and communication. So if that sounds like you, please connect with me on I'm sorry, on LinkedIn. And my email is Mike, M-I-K-E, at Mike Barris, MikeBarris.com. Mike at MikeBarris.com. And I like to be friends. I like to meet, say hello.
Awesome. Also, do you want to give out any pricing, or you want to keep it for a personal discussion with the people?
No, let me meet the people first. let's get a relationship going first.
Okay, great. Build rapport first, then we can move further and understand their needs, and you can move further with the program. Okay, so thank you so much, Michael, for today's session. It has been a wonderful, wonderful time, asking you questions, and I enjoyed a lot. And I learned a lot. My audience learned a lot. So thank you so much, Michael. And thank you so much to my lovely audience who have joined. So until next time, stay bold, stay kind, and as always, speak from the soul. This is SHAQ signing off.